Hi, everyone. Welcome to episode 11 of the All Dolphins podcast show extravaganza, comedy hour, whatever you want to call it. And I'm going to call it comedy hour because we're going to start with a joke. Would you call the signing of the former New England Patriots
a win-win?
a win for the Dolphins? Okay. That's why
I'm laughing.
I'm not a stand-up comic.
Yeah.
But do we like this move? And then they doubled up with the former Bengals first-round pick, Cedric Ogbuehi. My apologies for butchering his name, Cedric O. So now you got two former first-round picks the Dolphins have signed to add bodies competition to the offensive line. Are we liking those moves?
I actually love them from this standpoint. And I wrote this in an All Dolphins column that's up on the site right now. We have tried everything. And I'm not talking about this organization. I'm not talking about this regime. I'm talking about for the last 2 decades, for the last 15 years, we have tried everything with a major amount of failure associated with it. We've had 2 successful offensive lines in the last 15 years. That's 2008 and 2016. Now, what I like about this is that you're adding athletes. You're adding young players who once had cachet and were going to hold down a franchise. I mean, this Isaiah Wynn has been the left tackle for the New England Patriots and was Tom Brady's left tackle. So you got to put some respect on who he is and what he's accomplished. Cedric O, yeah, he's become a journeyman, but I'm sorry, that happens to most players at the end of his career. For you to be, having collectively, they've got 75 starts. I'm not sure if you take Teron Armstead off this team, there's 75 starts collectively from everybody. Robert Hunt, Austin Jackson, Liam Eichenberg, and
Connor Williams gets you there, though.
Connor Williams gets you there, but you know the group I'm referring to.
I hear you.
So I like this. If you look at what this organization is building off, which is a Shanahan blueprint, they don't need big names. What they needed is athletes, and they've added 2.
The last point you made is a very, very good point. Because if I recall correctly, like, for example, the San Francisco line that operated with Mike McDaniel as a coordinator, unless I'm mistaken and my memory fails me, outside of Trent Williams, who was a high first-round pick, I don't believe any of the other guys. Well, they had Mike McGlinchey for a while, but the interior guys, I don't necessarily believe were high draft picks.
They were some of them were
like in 2008, the Dolphins' offensive line, as I recall, other than Jake Long, who was the first overall pick at left tackle, the rest of the guys were like veterans. Most guys that they had acquired from other teams, I remember this was Jake Grove, I believe, was at center in 2008.
No,
he came next year. Justin Smiley was a guard who had come as a free agent. And then the unicorn, as I mentioned to you privately yesterday, that line actually included 4 first-round picks: Brandon Albert, Laramie Tunsil, Mike Pouncey, and Jawan James, along with Jermon Bushrod, who was a very, very good 4th-round pick. I believe 4th or 5th round with the Saints. So there are different ways to go about it. My biggest concern with the offensive line remains the same, and that concern is going to remain until proven otherwise to me, is for the most part, when Teron Armstead was out last year, that line was not good. Yeah. I mean, as in really not good. And Teron Armstead more than likely is going to get injured because that's what his history says. So where does that stand? Having said all that, I am all for adding all those guys. I saw the number on Isaiah Wynn was at 2.3 mil. I'm going to guess Cedric O probably close to the veteran minimum. Those are not big money deals. Hopefully one of those guys pans out. Isaiah Wynn is the other issue with Isaiah Wynn. He's got an injury history as well. He's missed a lot of time, including, 3 of the 5 years, he's had a significant injury that landed him on IR. In his entire rookie year in 2018 and 2020 was on IR. In 2022, he ended the season on IR with a foot injury. So on the one hand, if he goes every other year, healthy, then he's due for a healthy year in 2023. So we're all set since he only signed a 1-year contract. But
Let me go ahead.
no, I was going to say that we were complaining a couple of weeks ago that they hadn't done anything whatsoever to address the offensive line and bring competition for Austin Jackson. Well, they have brought competition. He's going to get the first crack at it at right tackle. And if he looks like, oh, there could be problems there, then Isaiah Wynn gets a shot or Cedric O gets a shot.
Yeah, I mean, let's look at it from this standpoint. We know Teron Armstead did not participate in most of, like, he'd spend maybe one snap, one series or two series with the first team in all of training camp. Didn't play in any of the exhibition season. I don't remember if he did. I don't think he did.
I don't believe he did.
No. So you were lining up Larnell Coleman and Greg Little at left tackle for the entire offseason. You have just drastically upgraded that spot, because I don't want Teron Armstead practicing either. I don't.
He doesn't need to.
Yeah, I need him healthy for games. If he wants to get, work off a little rust and get a series here and there during practice, cool, we could do that. But I don't want him practicing. And what you've just done is you've upgraded your backup tackle spots. You've added a guy who's experienced playing left tackle in Isaiah Wynn, who, if something happens to Armstead, he's upgraded the position. He's got experience, and a lot of people believe he projects better as a guard, even though the New England Patriots sparingly, if ever, used him as a guard. But he did play that position at Georgia. And right now, I'm a big believer, and I've always been this way, and every coach has ever said this, is you play the best five. You figure it out, however it computes to you. And right now, nobody has any evidence that Liam Eichenberg is better than Isaiah Wynn. Nobody has any evidence that Austin Jackson,
NFL level, no, you're absolutely right.
Nobody has any evidence that Austin Jackson is better than Isaiah Wynn. So let it play out. And I like the fact that there's better depth now than there was at the position last year, where you had to sign guys, claim guys, elevate guys from your practice squad just to make it through the season. And they were starting.
Yeah, no, and they wound up, like, I mean, I don't know how many guys off the streets or waiver wire claims they made on the offensive line in the second half of last year. I mean, it was like a lot. And that's not necessarily healthy. And sadly, and it goes around to all of this. And when you talk about the Dolphins prospects for 2023, what's the big question? What's the number one thing that always comes up? Well, Tua's got to stay healthy. Well, unfortunately for the Dolphins, it's not just Tua. They have a couple of other guys. And obviously that applies to every team, but they also have guys that have recent injury history or long injury histories. Teron Armstead being one of them. On defense, X is coming off a year where he was very mediocre, even though he made the Pro Bowl. Again, that tells you what. He was mediocre. Come on, you cannot, even X would tell you he was mediocre last year. And
he didn't play
look at the analytics. The opposing passer rating when targeted was it was over 100.
He was always covering the best receiver.
He was always covering the best receiver 2-3 years ago, and it wasn't an issue. It was an issue last year because he wasn't right.
I'm not making excuses for X. He had a growing issue.
Okay. So, and then there's another guy, Bradley Chubb's another guy who's got injury history. Here's another guy who has another injury history, is David Long Jr., who you signed to be a starting inside linebacker next to Jerome Baker. So
Jalen Phillips too. Don't forget that. Jalen Phillips, he's got injury history going throughout his career in college. Not necessarily.
Well, not in the NFL. I mean, so I'm not even including him, but those are like, how many are we up to? 4 or 5 marquee players, key players who you have reason to be concerned more than your typical guy. For example, more than Patrick Mahomes or Travis Kelce in KC, more than Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs in Buffalo about getting hurt. And that's kind of a little bit of an uncomfortable feeling head into this 2023 season for the Dolphins, when if everybody is right and everybody plays 15, 16, 17 games, this is a very, very good roster.
Yeah, absolutely. We always say that every offseason, and then people get hurt and the roster gets watered down. I've always subscribed to the theory, you are only good as your weakest link. And when your weakest link is Dallas Thomas, you're not very good.
I had to take a shot at Dallas Thomas. Oh, Well, see, this is where I could be a smartass.
That's where I created that thought
Hold
process.
on, not that it's my style, but I could be a smartass and say, well, Dallas Thomas may have been their weakest link in 2016, and they made the playoffs.
Not with him.
Well, they cut him in October, but they started the season with him on the roster.
Yeah, he got purged in the O-line bloodbath that led to the birth of the unicorns. But yes, that's my point. He was like, when you have an O-line, and this is where I really came up with that understanding. Not that I was a big Tannehill fan, but when you have an O-line where you know one guy's going to get roasted 5 plays a game, he's going to be average to okay 45 plays, but he's going to get destroyed. And this follows through with Austin Jackson as well. Because that's been kind of the story of his career. There will be 5 plays ish where he's just going to get destroyed, and then it's going to kill your drive or hurt your quarterback. Can you clean that up? And that's on Butch Barry, which is why I have him rated as one of my top additions this offseason in another All Dolphins.
Most important offseason additions. And you're right, because it's up to him to make it work.
Or figure out if it's not going to work and move on. Or figure out if it's not going to work.
Correct. The Dolphins are at a stage where they can't afford to give people the benefit of that anymore to see all that. Like, for example, Austin Jackson, one of them. Okay. Give him the first shot at right tackle in training camp. No problem whatsoever. But do not get stubborn if it's clear that it's going to be a problem. Same with Liam Eichenberg. We could mention Noah in the secondary, but that's a different story. That's just as far as making the roster. As far as making the roster, Noah Ogbuehi. Okay.
Who was that? I don't even remember. I don't even know who you're talking about.
You're not very nice. Noah Ogbuehi. Not very nice.
That guy's a gunner. I'm not even moving him off 3rd team defense.
Okay.
Like, I can name you the guys I'm playing ahead of him. He's never moving off 3rd team defense. He's never getting off.
Okay. You mentioned Ryan Tannehill, and I bring him up because you and I both did different stories on the schedule where you gave a game-by-game outlook. This is all on alldolphins.com. You gave a game-by-game outlook and predictions, and I did a story ranking the schedule game-by-game by degree of difficulty, and I had the Tennessee game at home on a Monday night as pretty far down my list, and you, my friend, had the Dolphins actually losing that game.
Game of the season to me. Game-defining game. I promise you that game will determine whether or not this team makes the playoffs or not. I call it Tannehill's revenge. Come on, man. Don't act like this man. Yeah, he's made $200 million in his career, but don't act like he doesn't have a gripe about the team that gave up on him, flushed his career, traded him to Tennessee, where he resurrected his career. And now, more importantly,
4 years ago,
you act like vendettas die.
Does Ryan Tannehill really strike you as the kind of guy with a personality to be like, yeah, I'm going to get these meffers?
Secretly, yes. Secretly he does. Remember after the game in the Flores cursed at Tua game where their relationship severed forever. In 2021, the one that cost the Dolphins their playoff berth. Remember that game? All the Titan players were like, yeah, we had to do this for Tannehill at the end of the game, after the game. This is for Tanny. And I was just like, yeah, they wanted it for their guy. You don't think that Tannehill wants to show up this young Tua Tagovailoa who upstaged him? The team just decided to tank the whole season to go get him. You don't think he wants to continue to embarrass Tua like he did in 2021?
I think this was a first game type of deal. Number one, a couple of points I want to make. Number one, that was 2 years ago, 2 years removed from when the Dolphins moved on from him, which, my Lord, was a time to move on from him. Number two, if you remember that game, that game won because the Dolphin offense was, to put it very, very politely, subpar that day. Let's put it like that. or you could say complete garbage. One of the two. Take your
It
pick.
was
And number
raining.
3. Oh, sorry.
Tua couldn't hold the ball. It was rainy. Tua couldn't hold the ball. They didn't want to run.
Tua couldn't hold the ball. Okay. Wow. Okay.
He couldn't throw in the rain.
I know that's not part of the job description.
It was cold. It was cold and rainy. Remember, he went to Maryland to work on throwing in the cold.
Yeah. Okay. That different topic for another day. I don't want to dive into that, but
yeah, I'm throwing the lures in.
Yes, you are. But and I will gladly attack it. Not today, because we have other stuff to discuss. And here's the most important thing is this is week 14. The Titans have been a contender, one of the best teams in the AFC for the past several years. Last year it went south for them, and now the question
got hurt.
Hold on, it's the question we have to ask ourselves. This is a team that's gotten old at several key positions. It's also a team that had a boatload of injuries last year. Now, was last year an aberration, and they're back where they were as contenders in the AFC, or was last year a sign that they're about to do a rebuild? And also remember this. You're assuming Ryan Tannehill is going to be a quarterback in week 14, when after drafting Malik Willis in round 3 last year, which
he sucks. They move on.
Okay, then they doubled up and they drafted Will Levis in round 2 this year.
He sucks too.
Okay, and if you don't think it's better than 50-50 that Will Levis is the starting quarterback for the Monday night game in Miami, I think you're crazy. And this is a game that, to me, is one that should be comfortable for the Dolphins compared to others on their schedule.
You are assuming that the Tennessee Titans are tanking this year to try to rebuild their roster.
I don't use the word tanking. I never use the word tanking. I didn't use it in 2019. Roster reset. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's what people. That's what. Yeah, the San Antonio Spurs were roster resetting last year too, and they ended up winning the lottery.
Right.
Listen, Ron Rivera, very good coach.
Mm-hmm.
Derrick Henry, arguably still the best running back in the NFL.
What does Ron Rivera have to do with the Titans when he's coaching the Commanders? You're thinking of Mike Vrabel. Who is a great coach. Who's a great coach.
Yes, I'm sorry. Mike Vrabel. Why did I say Ron Rivera? Mike Vrabel.
Okay.
Derrick Henry, Ryan Tannehill, all at a pivotal point in their career where their failure or success this exact season is going to determine how much money they make the next season in the coming years. Mike Vrabel should get recycled as a head coach. What caliber of job that he gets if things go south in Tennessee depends on how well he performs. Same thing with Ryan Tannehill. He's going to be a starter in this league for somebody because we know he's just average enough to take over a starting spot. And then Derrick Henry's looking for a new contract. I think that they'll all be motivated, and they might have a Minnesota Vikings type season where a lot of people think it's time to flush that team, and they end up being one of the hottest teams in the NFL. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but you're at this thought process that the season's going to be over by the time they play the Dolphins.
I think that's more likely than them being contenders again. And number one, here's Mike Vrabel gets 3 offers immediately the day he's fired by Tennessee. I mean, I think he's like a top 5 coach in the NFL. Number 2, Ryan Tannehill is Andy Dalton. Okay, I think we have reached a point where those big years he had in Tennessee, I think people are smart enough to understand that he killed off play action passing because he had Derrick Henry back there and a stud offensive line. And once you took that away from him, whoa, what do we have? A meh quarterback. So
and don't forget Brown. But I have learned to stop underestimating Ryan Tannehill. He's going to do just enough to get the bag.
Wow. Yeah, but
he is a bag getter, man. He is a bag getter.
But the only reason he's still in Tennessee is because they can't cut him because of his contract. Otherwise, his asset have been gone by now. And I think that's the end of the road for him. And again, I see him becoming Andy Dalton. So somebody's going to sign him to be a backup.
He could be the starter for the Atlanta Falcons right now. I'm shocked that their teams, Washington. He could be the starter for the Washington Commanders right now. Not to say that he's going to take them places, but we know he is the baseline for a slightly above average quarterback play.
Correct, but you sign him and you're basically, okay, 9-8. That's our ceiling. That's what we are. We'll be between 7-10 and 9-8 every year. Awesome. I don't think that works. So, so no, we disagree on the difficulty of that particular game. I don't know if you agree with me. I had as my number one toughest game. Who did I have? I think the Eagles on Sunday night, only because had they not moved the Kansas City game to Germany, that'd have been my number one.
Because it would have been a hostile environment. Yeah.
Yeah, and Dolphins, unless I'm severely mistaken, have a very good fan base in Germany where that crowd's going to be.
They have a good fan base internet. They have a good fan base everywhere. So I've never seen the Dolphins not really travel well. I think they'll probably own 40% of the stadium with the Chargers. I think you have that game too low as well. That's those are, to me, the season comes down to a couple of games. Tennessee, Dallas, I'm not going to see it. They're going to, like they do every season, surprise and beat some teams that you don't expect, like Baltimore last year. And they're going to lose some games that you're just like, what happened? Like Green Bay this year.
Were we that shocked by Green Bay? Let's say Green Bay.
Yeah, because they weren't good. Green Bay wasn't good. They came out
they were playing a lot better at that time, and then they put themselves in a position to make the playoffs after their horrible start, and then soiled the bed on that final Sunday night game against a Detroit team that had nothing to play for. No, you mentioned that Charger game, then I will explain to you my thinking on there is number one, there is no home field advantage for the Chargers at SoFi Stadium. You watch their games.
Correct.
It's either even or the other team has more.
That stadium will be filled with Dolphin fans. The Correct. West Coast, I'm as somebody who traveled with the team, not with the team, but traveled, I always was obsessed with West Coast Dolphin fans. In fact, I go hang out with them. Like wherever you guys want to meet up, it'd usually be a Papados. I would meet up. They are going to be 20,000 Dolphin fans in that stadium. And that's a conservative prediction. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The only team, the ones that are funnier is watch the Steelers play on the road against the Chargers. I mean, you might as well be at Heinz Field. It's crazy. The other issue with the Chargers, who on paper look like a formidable opponent, but they got, I mean, there's a term chargering for a reason. So until proven otherwise, that team.
I've never heard the term chargering.
What the hell? Are you serious?
Yeah, I'm dead serious.
Oh, the definition is a football team that always finds a unique, different way to lose a game and should win. That's the definition of chargering.
That sounds like that's so Dolphins.
Oh, no. The Dolphins are moving towards a bachelor's degree. The Chargers have a PhD in chargering. I mean, it's insane. And this is why on paper, it looks like a very, very formidable task. But the Chargers are the kind of team that you can't trust week in and week out. That and the fact that the home field advantage is kind of negated because the Chargers just don't have that kind of fan base, I think makes it a game. That's why I don't have it as among my toughest. I don't believe I have it in the top 5 as far as my most difficult matchups.
I see. I look at that ranking as most important. So yes, the most important make it the most difficult. But I hear what you're saying. The challenges, you rank them like, I don't look at Miami going to Philadelphia and walking away with a victory. I'm sorry. I can't live.
See that. Okay. And the story was purely most difficult, which basically at this particular point in time, which one do I have the highest degree of confidence the Dolphins will win? Which is why, and the last one I may have had Carolina was the one I saw as the easiest one because it's in mid-October and in South Florida. Going to be hot. The home field advantages is there. They're either going to have Andy Dalton at quarterback or Bryce Young, one of the two. Yeah. And the Dolphins clearly are a better team. So that's the one I put all the way at the bottom as the one I would have the most confidence that they'll win. Tempted to put Denver because that's a home opener. But the Sean Payton, Russell Wilson factor, is it possible they rediscover some magic there and the Broncos quickly turn it around and become contenders in 2023? Not impossible. But this is going back to the schedule. It is a tough schedule because as fate would have it, and here's the thing with the NFL schedule, I would assume most Dolphin fans know this, but it's purely on a rotation basis, except for 3 games. And that rotation basis, unfortunately, had the Dolphins this year getting the AFC West, which is a bear, although it actually not the best one if we're using last year's records, because that would have been the AFC North. And then in the NFC, by far the toughest division based on last year's record was the NFC East. And it just so happens this is the year the Dolphins play the NFC East. So
you listen, you play who you play. It comes down to game planning, preparation, and health. And quarterback play. Except
I would dare you to look both 2008, 2016, when the Dolphins made the playoffs. And I want you to tell me with a straight face that they were not helped by playing a very soft schedule. Come on.
All right, fine.
So you can't tell
me. Opponents' health, other people's health factored into them making the playoffs. I'll acknowledge that.
No, an easy schedule. They played in 2008. They played.
No. Opponents' health factored into them making the playoffs.
Okay.
Health.
When you get a chance, go back and look at that 2008 schedule. And mind you, this was the year after the Dolphins were 1-15. A whole bunch of things came together, the perfect storm, one of which was they had the benefit of a crappy schedule.
The why not us season. Don't disrespect this guy. No, don't disrespect.
Which one's the why not us? Is that 2016?
Don't. Oh, you said 2008.
2008. Tony Sperano's first year. Bill Parsons comes in.
Yeah, don't disrespect Tony Sperano's. What about why not us season? They earned that.
They did earn it. If you're gonna sit here and say that the fact that they had an easy schedule didn't play a part in it, I think you're crazy. And this is what happened. What happens? They get into the playoffs and they play Baltimore, which was another AFC team that was a little bit higher in competition.
And that team won 9 or 10 games to end the season with the only loss to New England Patriots. They put on that chin strap, baby, and they played Tony Sperano tough physical football. Okay. San Francisco.
Crappy NFC West that year. Okay. Can you name the Rams quarterback? I can, because I actually did something.
Mark Bulger?
It was very good. It was Mark Bulger. Very, very good.
Who was Oakland's quarterback back then? Was it anyway? It don't matter.
No, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. Listen, I hate the schedule is a schedule, man. Everybody plays the schedule. Everybody gets their opponents. You share the same opponents with your AFC East team. Make it work. Just make it work.
No, that's fair. I do see you and I differ in this, because I do think it matters to some degree. But here's the thing: if you have Super Bowl aspirations, then it shouldn't matter. You should almost relish the opportunity to face and dismiss.
Are you saying that the Dolphins have Super Bowl aspirations?
Dude, if everything works out fine in terms of health and everybody performs up to their capacity, would I make them one of my top 5 contenders? No. Do I think it's ridiculous to suggest that it's even a possibility? No, I don't think it would be ridiculous to suggest.
Okay, it's not ridiculous to suggest that the LA Chargers are a possibility. Or
certainly.
Or the New York Jets. It's not
without question. They're not. I mean, your top 3 teams and this is not me talking. This is the odds makers it's the same teams in the AFC. It's Buffalo, KC, and Cincinnati. It doesn't change. It's Philly and San Francisco in the NFC. But are we going to lock it down to it's going to be 2 of those 5 teams in the Super Bowl? There are a lot of. I mean, you look at the AFC and it's like, Jesus Christ, who's a garbage team in the AFC heading into the season?
Tennessee.
Houston. There you go. He saw the light. That's good. Houston. Don't think Las Vegas really inspires me.
Yeah, no, they're gonna.
New England doesn't inspire me.
Deshaun Watson might have a comeback year.
Yeah. That's Cleveland. I didn't say. Yeah. So.
You said Sean Watson.
I said Houston, Vegas, New England. If Indianapolis, probably. I say Tennessee. So that's like, I have 5 teams where they get to the Super Bowl, my jaw drops on the floor in the AFC.
Yeah.
Whereas in the NFC, it's the other way around. If it's not one of Philly, San Francisco, Dallas, hell, I might even stop there. Who else looks like a team that, you know, sorry, no, I don't see the Giants. I don't see Washington. I mean, we could go down the list.
Yeah, no.
That's a very chic pick. So anyway, we're drifting away from the Dolphins here. Let's come back to the Dolphins. We saw rookie mini camp last week. Not a great opportunity to see a whole lot because the media was basically given access to 30 minutes of a practice. They're wrapping up phase 2 of the offseason program this week. Next week, we start with the OTAs where we will be allowed
football in pajamas.
But it's still more than we've seen. Anything in particular you're looking forward to seeing on that viewing we have next week?
Honestly, the play of the linebackers, how they move around. Because there's going to be a lot of passing. There's not going to be any running. Can David Long cover in space? How is Jerome Baker really going to be utilized? Obviously, I'm looking for who is going to be that strong safety. Nobody has a clue right now. Brandon Jones, probably health-wise, is close, but by the time they open camp, he's going to be 8 months into a rehab of I believe it was an Achilles. Was it Achilles or knee?
He's an ACL.
Yeah,
Needham was the Achilles.
Yeah. That come on. So let's not push it. So those are the things I'm interested in seeing. Chosen Anderson, Robbie Chosen, whatever he wants to call himself. I have a higher opinion of what he's going to do and the impact he can potentially make in this offense than most people. I want to see if he still has that ability. If not, then okay, well, we know. Fortunately, I will be able to be there, hopefully, and so will you. The 2 best eyes for training camp practice. I'm not even gonna brag about, as most people know, because I've said this on Twitter. If I didn't watch practice because I was doing something or had a day off, I was definitely calling Alain or finding out what Alain saw, because there are only 2 people who really, really watch practice and practice. No shade intended to anybody else. It is what it is.
It is what it is.
To quote Tyreek Hill. Oh no, it needed to be said. That's quote Tyreek Hill. Yeah. So I'm glad we'll be there. We'll be able to keep our eyes on practice. Obviously, I'm curious about the offensive line. How are they going to use the new rookie? I think I looked at his body and I saw a guard. Does he have the movement skills for a guard? His arms are a little bit short. Yeah, just a little bit. Not to judge a man by his arm size, but you know.
Yeah. No, to me, you know who the 2 guys I'm going to be focusing on is Channing Tindall and Eric Ezukama. I want to see them, or actually even more so than that, I want to just look when they're on the field, not necessarily zone in on them. I want them to stick out to me while I'm watching them on the field, because I'd like to see something out of those guys. Because
week one of OTAs,
dude. Again, as much as can be gleaned, I want to see something out of those 2 guys.
That whole draft class just move it along.
You're ready to give up on Channing Tindall and Eric Ezukama. Dude, Eric Ezukama flashed last year.
He did. And then he flashed, and then he just absolutely went AWOL, ghost.
He did. Very disturbing, actually.
Yeah. I mean, and life sometimes, and this is what people don't realize, sometimes life factors in with these rookies. It's just too much. And especially in Miami, sometimes it is too much. I know Nick Needham has, not Nick Needham, Noah Igbenogany has acknowledged that, hey, man, my rookie year, things were just going way too fast. So you just hope it's a second-year rebound, but I don't know about all that. That whole draft class from last year, just
damn. No, that to me would be I mean, it is what it is. If it
Cater
turns
Kadu,
out-
baby. That's your draft class.
Who?
Cater Kadu.
Yeah.
What? He's solid NFL starter. If he was a second round pick,
not a starter this year. He was a starter by necessity last year because, again, and it wasn't just.
Do you think Nick Needham jumps him, leapfrogs him?
Nick Needham was ahead of him. The reason Cater Kahu got into the lineup on a regular basis was because Needham went down with that Achilles injury.
He brings a physicality that I like.
Oh, dude, I have said he's the best tackling cornerback on this team since Vontae Davis. So you're preaching to the choir here. But as somebody you know and love would say, let's not pretend that it wasn't circumstances that put him in the starting lineup. And he may develop into a legit bona fide starting cornerback in the NFL. I don't know if we should be there yet. I'm curious to see how Trill Williams moves. Back from the ACL of last year. It's going on for 9 months. I would assume he'd be possibly ready to do something. I haven't.
I'm sure he's on the field.
I haven't seen anything related to him. So, but yeah, dude. Again, yes, you're right. It's an OTA. There's only so much we can see. If we're not giving up on Austin Jackson and Liam Eichenberg 2-3 years after the fact, certainly don't want to be giving up on Channing Tindall just as we arrive in the second year. Otherwise, why the hell did you draft him? Okay, the Dolphins obviously saw something in him. He's a very good athlete. The instincts always were a question. But so I want to see something. But again, that'll be and then what we'll do is let's reconvene here next week after we do have that open OTA, and then we can discuss what we saw, because right now it's time to say goodbye as we wrap up another edition of the All Dolphin podcast. He is Omar. I am Poupart. Thanks again for watching.